Hello everybody, this is TipTopMTG here today with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we are breaking down the July 21st, 2021 banned and restricted announcement. So in this announcement, they are announcing a suspension for Historic, which ironically in the banned and restricted announcement is neither a ban nor a restriction. And I'm going to talk about kind of what that means, why they did it, we're going to read through what they have to say, and all of that. So the only thing that is happening is that Brainstorm is being suspended. So Brainstorm was added as a mystical archive with Strixhaven, and when they added the mystical archive, they started with, I believe, 7 of them banned. So far, they've banned 2 additional ones, and the stated reason was, hey, we want to kind of see what the problem cards are, because they came up with a much bigger list of cards that probably should be banned, but they wanted to see, maybe it wasn't going to be a problem, and so, they just decided, we'll ban the mystical archive cards a little bit more, so be aware of that. That's what they kind of said with the release of them, and we are seeing kind of the second quote-unquote banning, but this is actually a suspension, and so they're not going to talk about it in the article, so I'll talk about it here. What this means is that you're not actually going to get wild cards for this, because for those of you who don't know, whenever a card gets banned, you get wild cards equal to its rarity. So if a common gets banned, you get 4 common wild cards. If an uncommon, you by the way, you had 4 copies of it, you get 4 commons. If you had 4 of an uncommon that got banned, you got 4 wild cards. 4 rare, you got 4 rare wild cards. 4 mythic, So this doesn't actually happen because it's a suspension. And what does a suspension mean? Well, it's kind of like a temporary ban. It basically means it's not going to be in the format. We're going to evaluate it for a month or 2 without it in the format. If we find that the format is better than without the card, we will ban it. In which case, at that time, you will get your wild cards. Otherwise, they will reintroduce it back into the format. So this is not one of those things where you should go and particularly craft 4 copies of this because they're essentially free, which is how most bans work. Normally, I would tell people, hey, go craft 4 copies of this because you'll get your wild cards back the next day. And, if they ever add Modern or something and that card's legal in Modern, you don't have to actually craft it. But that's not going to be the case here, so if you are following my normal advice, I really wouldn't, although a lot of you probably, if you do play Historic, already have Brainstorm because it is such a powerful card. So let's just read what they have to say. So in the banned and restricted announcement for Historic in June, we mentioned that we were keeping an eye on the high play rate and perceived dominance of blue-red decks in general, and Brainstorm in particular. That is true, they did mention it, and they said basically, at this time, it's not a problem, and they're actually going to break down why that is. As we watched, we saw an interesting pattern emerge. Though decks like Izzet Phoenix and Jeskai Control have represented a metagame share that usually indicates a dominantly powerful deck, their win rates have been generally fair and healthy. For example, Izzet Phoenix was approximately 30% of the metagame in July, which is a very high percentage, which that is completely true, for one deck to claim, but its win rate was only 51.5%, far from dominating or threatening. This matches our internal data, which consistently showed Izzet Phoenix with a win rate above 52% and Jeskai Control a bit above 51% in high-level best-of-3 play. So that's kind of interesting. So essentially what they're saying is, yes, a lot of people are playing them, but it's not because they have 60% win rates. Now, you could say so many of them are playing the deck that it's lowering the win rate because it's mirror matches and stuff like that. But I just want to say, I think that this is one of those situations where it's very difficult to tell. Do you ban it because it is so popular, or is it just popular because people like that style of deck and it's not necessarily a problematic card? Now, I do think Brainstorm is a very, very powerful card in Historic, and I think the format will probably be better off without it because I think in its current state, there are very few blue decks that at least want card draw that aren't going to run Brainstorm. It kind of took over Opt, and Opt was already a card that could definitely see play in those decks that want to kind of get to what they're wanting to get to, so like combo decks, control decks, all of that. So I do think it'll be better off without it, but I don't know if, for instance, this is going to stop Izzet Phoenix. I don't think people were playing Izzet Phoenix because of Brainstorm, so I don't think this is actually going to change much. So, given these lower win rates for Izzet Phoenix and Jeskai Control and the presence of multiple other archetypes with strong records against both, Against both decks and the rest of the field, we expect to see the metagame share of these decks decline over time. Though we saw some reduction, the combined metagame share among these high-level players in best of 3 ladders declined steadily from 17% in mid-June to 14% more recently. Yeah, that makes sense. As sets come out, people play new decks. These two decks have remained the most played there, usually by a good margin. When evaluating a format, our goals are to generally create a balanced, fun, and diverse metagame. While decks like Izzet Phoenix and Jeskai Control are not showing win rates and that threaten balance, their steadily high metagame share is certainly harming deck diversity, which in turn reduces the fun of the format. While we are seeing some motion to correct this, the rate of change is too gradual to quickly address the format imbalance. To improve the format diversity, Brainstorm is suspended. While our most recent actions in Historic have been banned, such as those of Time Warp and Thassa's Oracle, those were cases where we had clear and convincing data showing the cards were problematic. In this case, the data is less clear, and that is exactly why we prefer to utilize suspension. We will continue to monitor the Historic meta closely to see if it reaches a point where reintroducing Brainstorm seems safe, or if we should move to fully ban it. Honestly, I think this is a good move. People saw the link for this yesterday. Through a process. I'm not going to go into that today, but a lot of people were saying, oh, yep, there goes Brainstorm. And I do think this was, if I was to say one thing was probably going to get banned, Brainstorm does make a lot of sense. It is one of those cards that, doesn't seem like it does much. It's just kind of a cantrip, but it does so much. And yes, it is going to depower those Izzet Phoenix decks, but I do think it's not as big of a blow as something like Faithless Looting would be specifically to those decks. I mean, yes, it's a powerful card. Maybe I'm undervaluing it. It is definitely very, very, very good, but I feel like Faithless Looting does more of what the deck wants, which is like filling up the graveyard, stuff like that. This is just a really good cantrip, which it can be really, really good in that deck. It probably could be just swapped out for another blue cantrip, and the deck will still work, but it just won't work as high on as high of a level, which will bring it obviously down in how much it sees play. A lot of the time when things get banned out of a deck, some people just abandon the deck because they figure Wizards did their playtesting, and without Brainstorm, it's not going to be good. But I would say just stick with it, see if it's still something that you can maybe salvage by just swapping out Brainstorm. Izzet Phoenix did kind of exist before Brainstorm, so I expect it to exist after. Either way, guys, that's it for this video. I just wanted you guys to stay up to date with what was happening. If you enjoyed and found this video useful, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with everything Magic the Gathering, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.